We had a case a couple years ago. Her name was Denisha Montgomery. She was in security forces and she had been attacked by a few members of her unit. She got home and she was bruised up. She had some marks in her as if she had been kind of stabbed. And she told her parents, I'm afraid for my life. I'm afraid for my safety. Next thing you know, she was found dead in her barracks room and the army told her parents that it was suicide. Coincidentally, the cameras had been turned off right before it happened. Her roommate was one of the people who had attacked her in the car. And so there were some concerns that maybe she allowed access to the room while she was gone. There were some bruises inside of her legs. So spent several months raising awareness for her, trying to really elevate the story so that they can't shove it under the rug.
Shawn French, what up? This one luck, I let the pain inspire me. I put my all in everything I'm doing. Up until it's done, I'm me for the entirety. I put in overtime, I be working. Just know I'ma go for mine, cause I earned it. They watching, I know it's time. I confirmed it. A whole society determined.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Determined Society. I'm your host, Shawn French, and if this is the first time you are listening to the show, please hit subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Follow the journey along. Start at episode number 1 and just listen to the growth because we've made some crazy leaps and bounds, quantum leaps in the show over the last 4 years. So super happy. Today I have an amazing guest to share with you. Her name is Janae Sergio. She's a best-selling author, former service woman, doing amazing things in the community to bring a lot of light to certain subjects. She's a best-selling author and a philanthropist. And welcome to the show, Janae.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited you're here. It's like, I feel like I know you already, right? Because it's like, that's the power of social media, right? You get connected through people that you already know, love, and trust. And it's like, when you meet somebody else and you're brought into the circle, it's like, okay, I already know that person.
Yes.
Right? So, I mean, it's pretty cool. But
Yeah.
you just flew in.
Yes.
You had a nice flight.
I did.
Yeah. You look happy. You don't look like it was too bad.
I got a good little cat nap in.
Did you?
Yes,
you
I
can
did.
sleep on a plane?
I don't normally sleep on planes, but whenever I travel, especially for like speaking engagements and events like this, I struggle to sleep at night because I stay up all night kind of preparing myself. And so once I get on the plane, I'm like, all right, I'm going to have to take a cat nap.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure I had my mouth open on the flight, and I'm pretty sure the guy next to me might have filmed it. So if you see me going viral later for that, I'm here for it.
Just as long as he tags you.
Exactly.
Like, send a collab, dude. Maybe here, send a collab. So that way she gets all the analytics.
I'd love that.
And all the people that want to learn her sleeping journey. And she's a mouth breather.
Yeah, I didn't know it until I woke up and I was like, oh.
God almighty. This is funny because like, I said like, oh, you can sleep on a plane. Like, I know I can't.
No.
I have to have like my nerves ride me when I'm traveling. Now, recently over the last couple of years, they've gotten much better. I had this job that I had to travel for. I had to go to Portugal. I was white knuckling it the whole way. I was like, this plane goes down, like we're in the water here. It's going to be like there's need to be a serious rescue mission going on, right? But I just think of all the bad shit, and over the last couple of years, like now. Like, it used to affect me going through TSA. I swear my wife probably hated traveling with me because every time they say something, I'm like, oh, why don't you just be nice about it? Like, I'm just like, I'm not happy about getting on this plane. But now it's like, it's cool.
It's getting a little better.
Yeah.
I've had anxiety on flights as well. I think I remember one time we were flying over the Great Lakes. 'Cause it's the bodies of water that get me as well. Because I'm like, there's no emergency landings.
Yeah.
Except for, what was that aircraft that landed in the Hudson a while ago? It's like,
Oh, yeah.
I always have like hopes that my pilot can do that.
Yeah.
On every flight that I'm flying over the water. But I remember I was flying over the Great Lakes once and I kept looking down and the thing is from the sky, everything looks like a lake. So I thought we had like passed Chicago and we were still going. And I'm like, I was like looking for the stewardess. I wanted to tell her like, excuse me, I think we went too far.
Hey, turn this shit around. You guys are going the wrong way. And you're like, oh my God, is this thing hijacked? Like, what the fuck's up? So you're sitting there and you're looking for the air marshal.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm probably a little bit like you. I probably sit on there and just start thinking all the things that are about to go wrong. Like, that one bump. And I'm like, we hit a bird. I just know.
Yep. The engine's blown out. We're so screwed. Why is this bird flying this high?
Yeah.
Crazy. Hey, you want to know something that's happened to me recently? I'm not going to say his name because I don't want him to get in trouble. But like, where was I? Oh, I was coming back from when I met Michael and Tim in Traverse, Michigan when we were hanging out with Eric Thomas. So I'm way back. I hop on this flight. All right. It was my connecting flight. No, it was my first flight. I'll get this right. I promise you I will. Sorry guys, hang with me. You know, I'm not very smart. So I get on the plane in Traverse in my connecting flight with Charlotte. And like, I'm sorry, like every time you connect at night in Charlotte, you are fucked.
Yeah.
Like, so, but I roll up to my seat and it's like right against like the front part and it's like where the bathroom is. And like, so I couldn't do this, but there was this gentleman sitting there on the end and, you know, he gets up, you know, and he's got a, you know, like a sweatshirt on, had some slick back hair, you know, cool little goatee. I'm like, this is a fucking badass. I like this guy. But he got out, was super kind. And, you know, we didn't have anybody in the middle of us. And we were able to have this amazing conversation, just getting to know each other. I'm thinking, this motherfucker's an air marshal. Like straight out. And I said to him, I looked at him, I go, you take the first shift, I'll take the second shift. And he goes, why are you quoting Bridesmaids? I'm like, you know I'm quoting Bridesmaids. He goes, dude, I'm not. He goes, no. I go, okay. Sure, buddy. I know how this goes. So we just start having great conversation. You know, he asked me what I do and I told him about all this. And he's like, whoa, this is fascinating. Can you show me your page? So I show him my Instagram. He goes, can I follow it? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And he goes, hey, do you mind? I go, dude, I'm gonna follow you back. Don't worry. And so I followed him back and we started like having this friendly conversation, talking about our families. I'm like, so man, what do you do? And he's like, yeah. Well, you know, I'm in Department of Defense. I'm like, no shit, you are. I'm like, of course you are. And he starts laughing. He's like, no, that's not what I do. But I do gun trainings for organizations and things like that. I'm like, so you're the Department of Defense and you do gun trainings for like corporations, but you're not an air marshal.
Yeah.
He goes, correct. I'm like, cool, man. And we just had this great conversation. And before we get off the plane, he gives me his card. He's like, hey, just give me a call sometime, man. You got my cell number in your phone already, but here are my other numbers. If you ever have any questions, give me a call. He's like, it's a little bit more involved than what I told you. And I didn't even think to look at it yet. I'm like, all right, man, I'll be in touch, because I was late for my next flight because we sat on the tarmac for an hour and a half. So long story short, I get back to the hotel room that was comped because Americans screwed it up. They have enough people working so we could get off the plane. I looked at the card, Senior Air Marshal. I texted him, I'm like, you motherfucker, and I knew it. He's like, oh yeah, you're a regular FBI agent. To this day, me and this gentleman speak every day via text. Absolutely adore him and his family. And yeah, so.
That's so cool. That's a really cool story. You're like, but you know, you could have played along with me then.
Yeah.
We could have run with it.
And so I said like, hey dude, did you know that I knew? He's like, yeah, I knew that you knew. Yeah. He's like, but I can't tell you. Like, I can't tell you.
Especially while he's there, like doing the work.
Right. And I said, how many times have I been on a flight with an air marshal and just not known? He goes, probably never. Because it's very rare that you're actually on a flight.
Wow. Right?
The percentages, right? All the flights in the world, and all the people taking them, you know? But he texts me, picture everywhere he goes. Everywhere he goes, like, oh, I'm in Germany, and the next day he's in Maui. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? But that's not what the show's about, right?
Still sounds like...
Shout out to my guy. It's pretty cool.
But I mean, if I ever need an air marshal...
I got a guy.
I got a guy. I know who to call.
Well, listen, when I make it big, he's going to be my security.
There you go.
I already told him that. He's like, I'm hiring you.
Exactly.
Keep me safe.
Oh,
well, you know, I don't need bodyguard yet. You might. I know you do.
Every once
in a while. We'll get to that.
Might here in Norfolk. We don't know.
Oh, shit. I don't know. Oh, yeah.
I was thinking I've done some pretty salacious stories here. And I was like, you know, come to think of it.
You might be on the hit list here.
Some of my worst stories are actually here. So I was like, oh, I should have probably better prepared for that.
Yeah. Maybe like a disguise or something.
Yeah. Well, no, because the thing is that when I do the travel, like, so that's kind of where you get into the issue with the work I do, is that also with speaking engagements or events, I have to market them.
Yeah, I know.
And so if people know where I'm going to be, I can't even, you know, sneak in and sneak out because they know, and they can just buy a ticket to the event and show up. So.
Yeah. Shit. Remind me not to stand next to you at all tomorrow. So listen, okay.
Well, so I was actually going to ask you to stay right there. And
hey, listen.
I need protection.
So we're already on it, right? Let's hit it. So you talk about the work you do. What's to the audience, the type of work that you're talking about that is leading to this conversation?
Okay. So I am a social justice warrior, is what I define it as, and really a DD-214 social justice warrior. And so I served in the Navy for 8 years, active duty. After I got out, I have my career and I have my book, but then I got moved very quickly into advocacy, but also a little bit of activism. Mm-hmm. I elevate stories of injustices that are happening in the military, and I'll do it for other organizations as well, like colleges, stuff like that, but more so with the military. Typically, sex crimes, violence in the military, any type of like suicides, like suspicious suicides. So we had a case a couple years ago. It was actually about 2 years ago. A soldier in Germany, and she was in security forces. Her name was Denisha Montgomery, and she had been attacked. They were security forces, so like military police, and she had been attacked by a few members of her unit coming back from a water park. They were on Liberty, and they were at a water park, and she got attacked in the car, and it's actually recorded of her being attacked. And she got home, and she was bruised up. She had some marks in her as if she had been kind of stabbed by something. And she told her parents, I'm afraid for my life. I'm afraid for my safety. And then a few weeks later, she was packing. She had posted a video of her bag in the corner. She was going to be able to go home. And next thing you know, she was found dead in her barracks room. And the Army told her parents that it was suicide. As her parents started digging a little bit deeper, some of the details surrounding her death didn't really add up to suicide. First off, the first thing they said was that it was suicide by suffocation. How do you suffocate yourself?
I mean, she's not a toddler.
Exactly. And so her parents were like, that doesn't, really make sense. That doesn't add up. And then they said that she hung herself from her locker. And so her sister, who's also in the service, showed an example of what it would look like and was like, there's no way you can hang yourself from your locker. It's not high enough. Coincidentally, the cameras had been turned off right before it happened. Her roommate was one of the people who had attacked her in the car. And so there was some suspicious, she had been gone, but there was, some concerns that maybe she allowed access to the room while she was gone. There were some bruises inside of her legs. So spent several months raising awareness for her, trying to really elevate the story so that they can't shove it under the rug. Because what happens a lot in the military, and this was more common, especially before December 23rd or December of 2023, where commanders had the authority to make a case go away, to say that we don't see any validity to this. We're not going to send them to court-martial.
Oh, wow.
So that's why I elevate the stories, is so that you can't shove it under the rug. You can't hide it. Everybody knows about it, and you have to take action on it because there's just a lot of injustice that happens in our. You join the military so that you can serve, and you know the risk, but the last thing you expect is that the risk is going to be the people that are serving to the right and left of you. Those are going to be the people who are sexually assaulting you, or those are the people who are going to be, raping children, right? You don't want to serve next to somebody who's doing that, or those are going to be the people who are committing violence against you. You shouldn't have to worry about that within your own unit. And so that's what I work to push out with the military.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, that's just sad.
It's really
sad. And as a civilian, I've never been, a service member, but when as a civilian, you look at the United States military and you look at the overall mission is to serve and protect.
Yes.
Right. And it's just unfortunate. I'm thinking this whole time, I've got 2 beautiful daughters. I got a son also, right? 11-year-old son, 8-year-old daughter, 6-year-old daughter. And it's wow, so you mean to tell me that the service may not even be a safe place for them? Yeah.
Yep. So I'll tell you the statistics for sexual assault or sex crimes in the military. It was in I think the 2021, the military has to release, because they are a public entity, right? They have to release the statistics. And so the report in 2021 showed that they had about 36,000 members who were estimated to have experienced sexual assault. Of those 36,000, 16,000 of them were men. So then when you get down and you start to dig into the amount of people who were reported, only about 5,000 were reported. Less than 2% of those 5,000 actually were convicted of sex crimes. So if you take the amount that were reported and then you weigh that against the estimated amount, less than 1% of the people who committed sex crimes in the military were convicted. What kind of message do you send?
That's wild shit, man. That's wild. It's scary.
It's really scary. And then 33% of the people who actually reported it got pushed out of the military. So if you commit a sex crime in the military, the odds of you getting convicted are less than 1%. But if you have a sex crime committed against you and you report it, you have a 33% chance of getting pushed out of the military. So why do you think people stay silent? And then you have these people who are committing them, promoting within the ranks. And then they're the ones who are suppressing the stories. So myself and a group of advocates, and, we really are activists if you really think about it.
Sure.
Myself and a group of advocates work together, as well as the Vanessa Guillen family, to help with the executive order that President Biden signed in December of 2023, which sends major crimes, not just sex crimes, but homicides, manslaughter, sends major crimes to an external entity. So it doesn't even give the commander the authority anymore to make a decision. So they're not, because they may not necessarily protect them because it's like their friend, but it could just be a really outstanding soldier that they're like, I don't want to ruin his career. It wasn't that bad. Or I don't have enough details, like a commander who's not an expert in law will say, oh, well, there's not enough evidence in the case to prosecute. Well, how would you know that? You're not the prosecutor.
Right.
You're not the expert in law. So now they've pushed it over to what's called the Office of Special Trial Counsel. And those are legal experts. And so they investigate it and then they go through the process. So we're watching to see how that trend is changing now. And so so not only do I do the work that you see online, where I've advocated for about over 200 cases. I have about 11 million a reach of about 11 million per month on some of these stories. But not only do you see the work that I do online, but we also go and we meet with our legislators. I testify in front of Congress. And I bring other people's stories, right? I bring that human factor.
I love that shit. Yeah, that's fantastic. And you're saying, to go back real quick though, President Biden's the one that signed that. Like well, there's something good.
There's a win.
There's one.
Literally the one, right?
The one.
We had been pushing for that though. So Vanessa Guillen, I believe that was in 2020. And so since then, the advocates have really been pushing for that. So that's how long it took for that to finally get pushed through. And I think it had been introduced probably even prior to that. But it was just relentless advocacy and bringing these stories to the forefront and saying, look at the military justice system needs reform. And on some of our teams, we even have retired judges from the military who have seen on their end. And so they're like, I have, children in the service, or I have daughters and I don't want my daughter to go through this. So I'm now an advocate as well. So yeah, he did. He signed that.
We'll still give it to him, right? We'll still
give him one thing.
We'll give him one thing.
Give him one thing.
Give him one thing.
He didn't he do his exit speech and he said, all these things we accomplished. And I'm like, we've got the one.
You've got the one, dude. Like, it's fun. So it's so funny. I never leave a bad comment on any type of social media, except when I see Biden's name on Twitter or X, whatever the hell it's called now. And Obama said something today or yesterday, tweeted that Joe's presidency was amazing and everything. I said, my response was, huh? What? Yeah. Like what are we talking about here? And I'm not and everybody will admit I'm not a big political guy. This is the most that realm I've talked about on my show, but I'm excited about it, right? Because it's not like, are you a Trumper or are you a leftist, right? Like, it's not that. And I just truly feel that what we really need to do is come together as America, right? It's not about the party, but it's about the mission of our country. And are we doing things for our people?
Yes.
Right? Our people. Now, I'm not saying that we don't need to help out, right? But I'm saying like, hey, we're hurting right now. America's hurting a little bit. And I know it probably started way before that. And, the match was, the pilot light was already lit, but COVID exploded it.
It did.
To where, there's family members that don't consider themselves family members anymore. There's friends that don't speak to each other anymore because one's a Republican and one's a Democrat. How fucking dumb is that?
Yeah. And then you see Trump and Obama chopping it up.
Yeah. It's all an act.
Yeah.
It's all an act.
Somebody commented that on social media. They said they don't hate each other.
They don't. They don't. Yeah. They don't hate each other.
Yep.
They're getting, so if you look at like the WWE and the WWF, completely unrelated, but it's a soap opera.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think this is?
Exactly.
What do you think this is? A lot of it could be staged. Like, we don't know what's going on. But my favorite is always when Trump was debating with Biden, he's like, Yeah, I just don't know what he said, and I really don't think he does.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was a good one. Yeah.
That was a really good one. Funny story. Have you seen the new Jamie Foxx special?
I have it.
Okay, on Netflix, do it. He does the best Trump impersonation. He does a better Trump than Trump.
Oh,
It's incredible. It's fucking hysterical. But your work, your activism, right? What you're doing, your mission is very brave, right? And we can go. I want to go into you being one of the first people deployed after 9/11, right? But first, it's like you're not just a single one. You have kids, right? You married?
2 daughters. Recently divorced.
Okay, but you have a family.
I do.
And like you are putting yourself at risk for the betterment of the country. So you're out of the military. You're no longer putting your life, on the line there, but you still are.
Yeah.
That's a real soldier.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And, I feel like we have a moral duty to speak up. And, the first thing is I'd have 2 daughters. And so the last thing I want is for my 2 daughters to go through what I went through.
Wow.
And I'd like, one of my daughters was to follow in my footsteps and join the Navy, but I can't allow her with what I know.
Yeah.
But it's not just my daughter. I think about other people's daughters. And I think if I had known these things before I joined the military, it may not have swayed me away from joining the military, because it is a great opportunity to change your story. And you'll hear all about that this weekend. It is a great opportunity, but the problem is that you have people who come into the military and we let our guard down because we think we're all brothers and sisters.
Safe.
Yeah, we can all trust each other.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, that's the person that's hurting you. And then I compare this to combat, the way that you get treated after, and I'll continue to talk about sexual assault, but again, there's other types of trauma that happens. And, but you just say, for example, you get sexually assaulted by somebody in your unit. I compare it to trauma or to combat. When you're in combat, what do? They immediately remove you from the threat, right? And then they deal with the threat, and then they validate that what you went through was a real experience, and then they rehabilitate you, and they try to help you get back into society and be rehabilitated. Well, when you get assaulted by somebody in your unit or harmed by somebody in your unit, they don't do any of that.
It's like the opposite, right?
It's the opposite. They leave you right there with that person. They leave you right there with that person. They ostracize you. They, dismiss what you experienced. They re-victimize you. You don't see justice happen. You have to fight in order to get your benefits, in order to get some sort of benefits or rehabilitation. And so it's like you basically leave that person right there smack in the middle of combat, and you're just compounding their trauma. And all these people want to experience is validation that, my leadership knows this happened to me. And yes, things like this might happen, but the people who are here to protect us from this, from even each other, are going to step in and make sure it gets taken care of. And even that doesn't happen.
What do you think fuels all this?
It's systemic. It's systemic. We talk about it, I hate to say it this way, for especially with sexual trauma. First off, the mission, you heard Pete Hegseth, right? Is to be lethal. That's the focus.
Yeah.
That's what the focus of the military is. It's not to create an equal culture and all of that in their mindset, right? Mm-hmm. And so we'll start with that, is like the focus is over there. The next thing is when you don't value what someone brings to the mission, when they have issues, you may not take those issues as seriously because they're dispensable in your mind, right? And so if they view sexual assault as a woman issue, which it's not, as I explained earlier, but if they view it as that, and it's a polarized conversation, then they say, well, it's a woman's issue. Women are a little bit dispensable in the military. This man over here, though, he's part of the lethal force. We need him to stay. So, maybe we'll kind of just let this go so that we can keep him and he can continue to go do the mission. So I feel like that's it. I think that also it's just the reform that needs to happen, and it's happening, but it takes time to get that reform going.
That's crazy, Janae.
Yeah, and one of the big goals that I have is to really depolarize the conversation and to get people to understand that this also happens to men. But when it happens to men, oftentimes it's downgraded as hazing. Not just by the military, but even by the man, right? Because
no man wants to say,
doesn't want to say
that Jimmy sexually assaulted me.
And unfortunately, when you have that, then you're not getting treated for the right type of thing, right? So then the man is going on and he's living his life not understanding Why am I angry? Why are certain things triggering me?
Yeah.
Why do I want to do certain things that I didn't want to do before? It's because he's not addressing the fact that he experienced sexual trauma.
Yeah, it's a different trauma. Like I mean, that's just like, people can be traumatized from losing a grandparent or a parent, but the sexual trauma, sexual assault trauma is different.
It is.
Same with hazing. It's like, it's all a different type of shit. All three of them suck.
Yes.
Very much so. Right. But the fact of the matter is, and again, I probably shouldn't say this, but I would say like getting over a grandparent passing or a parent passing or even, being hazed, depending on the level of the hazing. I don't want to be insensitive to that, but like those two things there, I think in my mind are more conceivably like easier to work through therapy. But when you're sexually assaulted and you're not even that root problem, that root thing is not being, helped through, medical attention, like that's how people kill themselves.
Exactly.
So let's go there like that. I mean,
or even others.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, now I'm not saying like hazing in school and bullying doesn't get kids to kill people. I don't. You guys know what I'm saying, right? Like I'm not here to make any definitive statement, but it's just like I'm looking at it like if it's sexual assault trauma, you can't treat it like hazing.
No, you can't.
It's different.
Exactly. Because it's a power thing, right? So
yeah.
That person took a piece of your power.
Yeah.
And so if you don't acknowledge that and you don't work through that, you go through life trying to figure out why can't, they took maybe a piece of your identity. I mean, the reality is men, they, because of the work I do, I hear this all the time, men don't want to acknowledge it because it feels emasculating, right? It feels, and they're treated differently too when they admit that it happened to them or they come forward. I'm covering a case right now. I don't know if you saw it, but Major Stockin up at JBLM, he was an Army doctor who sexually assaulted 41 men. 41 different men.
I saw you speaking on something maybe right after the election.
Yes.
What was that?
That was Major Stockin.
Okay, yes.
Yes.
And you were catching heat about something, and I think you were rebuttaling it. I watched it. I don't remember the details, but because it was like 3-4 weeks ago, right?
It was, yeah.
Short-term memory loss.
Yeah, because he was a physician, and people would come in and they'd have like neck or back pain, and he would tell them to take off their clothes, and he would fondle them with bare hands. And the thing about it is in the military, and so when I shared the story, the first time I shared the story, this was a year ago when it came out, there was only 23 victims, and that's still a lot. And at that time I said, this is what's getting, this may be one of the biggest sexual assault cases in the military. And when I shared it, I shared all the commands he worked at. Next thing you know, 41 people in total have come forward. And he's looking at only getting 13 years for it. He was facing 300. Yeah. So.
How old is he?
I would say probably in 40s.
So he would still have a life.
Yeah, he'll still have a life after. And all these people, he robbed their life, right? Because they're gonna have to live with this forever. 41 people. And like you said, right? Who's to say there's not more victims that have already taken their life because they couldn't live with it?
And these were all men.
All men. And so when the story, and I believe that's why that this wasn't taken as serious, because when the story came out, people were like, well, why didn't they just say no?
Yeah.
Or why didn't they report it? And so I'll kind of explain why. Because in the military, it is a hierarchy, no matter which entity you go to. So if you're in the military and you're an E4 and you go to a military hospital, even though it's a hospital, a major outranks you. There's still a power imbalance. And so if you go in there and this major who outranks you tells you have to take off your pants, and you have to listen.
Yeah.
And if you try to push back against it, he can actually go to your command and have you disciplined and say that you're, denying the treatment that you need. You can actually, I've advocated for people who have actually been counseled for advocating for themselves medically. And so, because the doctors called their command and had a power issue, right? Where they were like, oh, he's not listening to me, and got him in trouble. So the thing is, because it was all men, people were just kind of saying, well, why'd you let him do that to you, bro? Why'd you let him do that to you, bro? And it invalidates it and it makes that
Yeah.
person feel even worse.
I think most people, I think probably everybody that's asking that question doesn't know shit about the military.
Exactly.
Or the ranking system, right? It's just wild to me, man. So if you were to go in, right, and like one of those men, if they fought back and said no, could they be sent to the brig for that? Or
So not immediate. Well, I mean, if it's something where they think that you're not necessarily the brig, but if it's like a mental health type of thing and you fight back, they can abuse their power and they can get you, committed, right? And then they can go down that road. And actually,
be stuck there.
Yep. And it's interesting because remember I told you earlier about the statistics and I said 33% of people get kicked out. I've actually had reports of people who their command and the doctors, they believe worked in unison to say that they had mental health issues before they came in the military, so they pushed them out. Yeah. So
But none of it came up when they were getting screened.
Exactly. But it suddenly comes out after they report a sexual assault, but it was before they came in, so that they can't get the benefits, and so they just get pushed out. So, but there's definitely opportunities for them to abuse the power and for that person to be admitted. And like I said, I've advocated for people who've experienced stuff like that. And in one case in San Diego, the sailor, he got committed into the hospital, and his family said that he didn't have these issues before he came in the military. They said that it was before he came in, pre-existing, and they just threw him out on the street and he was actually homeless. They didn't give him his documents or anything. And so she was doing GoFundMes to try to get him back home and to get him the support he needed. So there's just so many stories of abuse. And that's what I take. I take the names. I take the stories and I take the names and we get them in front of our legislators. And sometimes it's by way of social media.
Yeah. And you're giving them the voice, right? Yeah. You're fighting for them. Like you're putting a name to the trauma. You're putting a name to the story. You are fascinating. I'm so grateful you're here right now. When you do these, you're like always looking forward to the conversation, but this is, I don't know if you realize, but like almost 45 minutes has just flown by.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like this is great conversation. And I know my audience is really going to love this. So what can we expect from you this weekend?
I am going to be sharing the message of the hero mindset. And so I'm going to share my story about how I was actually, and the reason that I give a voice to people is because I was silenced.
Okay. See, I thought that I had, so it's funny, like, not to interrupt, but like I thought I read that or learned that on your page, but then I got it mixed up because the same day I listened to my buddy's podcast and he had a woman on there that was also silenced. I'm like, so I told my team, I'm like, wait, no, maybe I got this all fucked up. Like, hopefully it comes out naturally, and it did. So perfect.
It was. So I joined the Navy from a homeless shelter when I was 16 years old. My mom dropped me off at a homeless shelter. I was homeless in Hollywood for about 2.5 years. Joined the Navy from a homeless shelter. And when I came in, I was so excited that, like I said, I finally had a family. I could let my guard down. 6 months after coming in the Navy, I went on a Navy-sponsored trip, and I was sexually assaulted on that trip. And it immediately, in the moment, I created a scene because they had put us all in a room, like 5 of us in a hotel room together. There wasn't even enough beds for us. Yeah, it was gross negligence on behalf of the leadership, right? And like I said, because we were subordinates, we had to listen. And so I ended up getting sexually assaulted in that room, woke the leader up right there. In that moment, when it happened, I was reporting it, and he threatened me because he would get in trouble for all of the things he allowed us to do while we were on this trip. So he threatened me and he said, if you call the cops, because we were all drinking underage, if you call the cops, you're going to get in trouble for drinking underage and you're going to be back on the streets where you came from. And he silenced me in the moment. And I get back to the base and somebody else reported on my behalf. So it did end up going to court-martial. During the time that it was, we were waiting for this case to go to court-martial, which, by the way, it took about 1.5 to 2 years to finally go to court-martial. I had to actually stay in the classroom, in class with the person who assaulted me. And I was leaving class every day trying to go to medical because I couldn't stand to sit in this classroom with this person.
Yeah.
I was ostracized, like I said, re-victimized. It affected me, and it affected me throughout my career because now all these people that I want to trust, I want to let my guard down, but I can't. I'm living in fear with people who could be helping me, and then it's affecting my career. And so after that, I knew that eventually I was going to be able to come back and help people. I didn't know how grand it was going to be. After I got out of the Navy, I promoted very quickly within the Navy, or within the Department of Defense, actually. I'm now the chief of Air Force Lodging, so I oversee 88 Air Force hotels.
Look at you.
Promoted very quickly. And I just still felt like there was a sense of purpose missing. And that's what I'm going to talk about this weekend is, the hero mindset. You often see that victim mindset and then you see survivor. And survivor is still passive.
Sure.
Hero is, no, I'm going to step up and be my hero. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to be a hero for others.
It's amazing.
And so that's what I'm going to be talking about. It's just, I felt that sense of purpose was missing, got on social media, and I was just thrust right into it. And here we are.
And I had goosebumps right there. Unbelievable. I'm excited to watch your keynote and to cheer you on. And you have a new fan. Like for real, like no bullshit. Like for real. Like I cannot wait to dig into your socials more and your stories more and whatever I can do to support you along the way. Hey, I'm in.
Thank you.
Because this is important. So where can the audience find you? How can they support you? Buy your books, all that kind of stuff.
So you can find me at JanaeSergio.com.
Mm-hmm.
I am on all socials at Janae_perfectlyflawed. My book is also available on Amazon. It was a #1 bestseller on the day I released it. It's called Perfectly Flawed, A Veteran's Journey from Homeless to Hero.
I want one. Do you have some with you?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Bumps for you.
Oh, come on. This is great.
I would have brought it in, but I was running out a little bit late, so it's still in the car.
No, it's okay. No, like amazing. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing what you're doing for the world, right? It's a brave thing. She has 2 children, right? 11 and 14 or 16?
17 and 12.
17 and 12. I was close.
Yes.
I was close. But to do something like that really shows where her heart is, and what she's focused on is bringing light to really, really bad situations so people can live their lives in peace and be healed. So please go check her out. And if this episode made your hair stand on end, or if you know something or you've been a part of something, please reach out to her so she can help you, and share this show with someone you know, love, and trust. And as always, please, hey, leave a review. Let us know what you like and what you'd like to hear from then on. But until next time, stay determined.
Shawn French, what up? This one luck, I let the pain inspire me. I put my all in everything I'm doing. Up until it's done, I'm me for the entirety. I put in overtime, I be working. Just know I'ma go for mine, cause I earned it. They watching, I know it's time, I confirmed it. A whole society determined.